I say that's when a lot of midlife crisis begins, because now you begin to ask questions.
Today on Your World.
The face that you have in your 20s was given to you by your parents. The one that you have in your 30s is responsibly your own choice. So if you're in your 30s and you're looking some type of way, that's on you.
In terms of settling down materially, then the big pressure is on the men.
You know, I'd look around and I'd see people still struggling, people still making mistakes.
Well, hi there. It's good to see you right here on Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and I hope that you're having a better start to the day. And what's going to make your day even better is our conversation today on the show, and that is the big 3-0, turning 30. And we're trying to understand, does it really matter? Because according to society, turning 30 signals your thrust into serious adulthood and you accepting the serious mundane responsibilities that come along with it. So does it really matter? Okay, so if you're not 30 yet, are you scared of turning 30? And if you are 30 or 35 or 40 and you have not achieved some of these traditional milestones that is expected of you, does it mean that you are a failure? All right, so today on the conversation, we'll be analyzing the ins and outs as far as the big 3-0 and whether or not it matters, but that conversation is coming up. All right, let's talk turning 30 and should it matter? First of all, why does it matter? Okay, and to help us with that conversation today, we have Rev. Simon Baby, who's the Executive Director, Transform Nations, and he's also the trainer and founder of Money Enough. I'm pretty sure you have seen his work. Rev, it's so good to have you, to have this conversation. And especially I'm curious from the man's side, okay, is the pressure worse, as they say, or not? And we also have Nangami Masaka, who is a public speaker, as well as a founder and director, Guiding Ray. Good to have you as well. I see you nowadays on TikTok, eh? Hey, maybe that can be this one, eh? But it's so good to have both of you today. My first question is, turning 30, why does it matter? That's it. Why does it matter? Should it matter? First of all.
Why does it matter?
Yeah.
I think life has a way of, I mean, we need to measure life with segments.
Okay.
Like in your 10s, in your 20s, in your 30s. It's just a way of looking at how are you doing in life.
Okay.
So I think it does matter in that way. And in my experience, when you're in your 20s, the attitude is a little different. You're trying out different things. There's not much of a hurry. You feel you're still young.
Yeah.
You could make a few mistakes. You could try this. If it doesn't work, you try that. But naturally, as you get into your 30s, you begin to realize that you're not as young as you used to be.
Okay.
There are a few things you can't do as well as you used to do. So you begin to realize I need to settle down and handle life in a way that makes sense. So it does matter, and I think it's important that it matters.
Okay.
In some ways, yeah.
Okay. Nangami, should it matter, turning 30? Yeah, it definitely should matter because obviously in your 20s, that's the era where you are allowed to make mistakes. Because your 20s is usually a learning curve. Your 20s is where you're trying out so many things. You're going to school, you're meeting people. That's when you're learning how to date. Then in your 30s, that's when you decide to do several things about yourself. Now your frontal lobe or the cortex is developed. Now you're more responsible because obviously that is why even in the beauty space, or at least for ladies, we usually say that the face that you have in your 20s was given to you by your parents. The one that you have in your 30s is responsibly your own choice. So if you're in your 30s and you're looking some type of way, that's on you.
Wow, wait, what?
Yes.
Why?
Because, you know, in your 30s, that's when now you're investing in skincare routines, you're looking nice, you're all about your looks. You know, you want to buy really elegant dresses, looking nice, you know, you're all about the presentation that you have. But in your 20s, you can look anyhow, so you're just looking as natural as the face that you came with. But in your 30s, that's when you put in a little bit of effort.
So like you need to be more aware.
Yes.
Okay. And I remember asking this before we came on air about your experiences, you know, before turning 30 and after turning 30. And just for purposes of curiosity, just in case someone was watching and thinking, okay, so you said it should matter, but how are you? Then, Rev, do you want to start before and after?
Yeah. Well, I got married at 24, 25.
Wow,
so I had settled down a bit. I think at 30 is when I was getting my firstborn. So I think the pressure for me was, now I'm a mature person. I need to think in a mature way. But also, I think for men, money matters, huh?
Okay.
In this way. Psychologically, for men, money is power. You have the power to do certain things. You have the power to sustain a family. You have the power. For ladies, it's more security. I'm secure because I have this money to do this and the other. My future is secure.
Okay.
So for me, I needed to settle down. I mean, I'm a lawyer by training, but I left law by 26, 27.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to get down into training and doing programs. But I wasn't settled yet in a way that I could say that I was ready to take care of a baby and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was worrying for me.
Okay.
It began to, and into 35, which is really the peak of physical strength. And that's why a lot of sports people retire around that time. So you're picking up at that point in terms of physical strength. And they say that's when a lot of midlife crisis begins, because now you begin to ask questions. All right, so how is life going to turn out? So there was that pressure for me. I don't think it was a bad pressure, but it was pressure of beginning to realize I'm in my 30s, I need to do something, need to make sure I have what it takes to sustain a family. My friends were also settling down, a lot of them landing good jobs, beginning to buy their house. So there's also that peer pressure from other people. So it did matter for me, but I'm glad that I was beginning off in terms of family, and I'll settle down in that sense.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll ask this as we get to the tail end of the conversation, that fine, so after turning 30, and of course those worries before turning 30, so what was that realization for you that, you know what, it's actually not that bad, or hey? You know, so maybe I'll ask that towards the tail end. But Nangami, for you, I mean, as a woman, there's a lot of things that you're told, but there's also a lot of things that you tell yourself, okay? So I'm just curious, for you, what was that like before turning 30 and even after turning 30? Did anything change in terms of your perspective?
Certainly, something changed. Because for me, when I turned 30, then I realized I've been sold a lot of, BS. Because when I thought when I turned 30, then I'd have my life figured. But as self-aware as I was looking around and I was seeing, like, even my parents who are in their 50s hadn't figured it out. I'd look around and I'd see people still struggling, people still making mistakes, people still being auctioned in their 50s, breaking up in their 50s. When you're in your 20s, you think that more mature people have control and a hold of themselves. And then once you get into your 30s, you realize that actually you never figure out this life. So even for me, when I now got into my 30s, I was more excited about it, because I think for me a whole world opened up, and that's when I got into the self-mastery journey, which is just getting this bit of self-actualization, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So for me, when I got there, I was like, I need to take charge and control of every aspect of my life, because we usually talk of the financial aspects only. But then again, I realized, okay, I'm no longer as swift as I was. So I need to be physically fit, number one. And then financially, I need to take care of my finances. Then spiritually, that's when you realize that you have these women who are like, oh, in their 20s, they were socialites. In their 30s, they found God. Like, you're like, oh, what you people messed your lives in your 20s. Now you're going back to God. But it's a discovery thing, So spiritually, there are those who go to spiritual awakening. There are those who go, they find God. They go back to God. And then also emotionally, now you want to be balanced. I can't be in my 30s and I'm crazy and my emotions are all over the place. That's when people decide to go to therapy. The rest of it. And then obviously then mentally, because as you get into your 30s, you gain access into certain spaces and you want to also be intellectually stimulating. So even for me now, getting into my 30s, that's when I realized, actually I've just been stumbling through life in my 20s and I need to get a hold of things in my 30s.
I sort of understand what you're saying, because again we were discussing this before we came on air, and I said I was excited to turn 30 based on my experiences in my 20s, but what I was never ready to turn was 25. Because you know how you have like cousins and they're older and you look at them and they're 25 and you're like, hey, and then you hit 25 and you're like, wait, what? So I think for me it was more like the reverse, not the 30. Yes, not the 30, but 25, and I was excited to turn 30. And a lot of things actually changed after I turned 30 for the better. But now, And looking at then versus now in terms of what success looks like, in terms of what, you know, we measure success, right? Would you say that has changed? And if so, how? Rev, I'm going to start with you. So I say that when we're talking about turning 30, there's a baseline that we set, you know, and say, okay, so this was then, but this is now.
Well, I think I would say two things have changed. Huh? And maybe as I say that, I could also say if you have made some mistakes in your 20s,
Yeah.
the impact of it sets on you in your 30s.
Okay.
That's when you begin to realize that was a major mistake. And these are the implications.
Yeah.
As I've talked to people who made some mistakes in their 20s,
Yeah.
a lot of them, you know, in 20s, you can say, I'm going to get over it, I'll circumvent it. But in your
Yeah.
30s, you begin to realize,
No.
I need to deal with this. You begin to confront it. So I think two ways in which things have changed. Number one is money-wise, in terms of material measurement.
Okay.
I think in our time, I feel like owning a house, settling down, looking at like you have some money, you have a plot, you know, things like those.
Yeah.
They showed that you were stable, that now you could have a family. That has changed a lot. I mean, there are people in their 30s, they're still doing online, Bitcoin, things like that. It's not very stable. Things could swing tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you feel like, I'm okay, I've mastered something.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In our days, it would be hard for you as a man to get married and invite someone to an online job or something. You need to show that you have some solid stability.
Yeah.
You have have you built something in charge?
Yes.
Or who are you? Where are you coming from? You know,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
But then number two, I think it's in terms of focus of career. In our time, in our 30s, you needed to be, you couldn't just be all over.
No.
You know, you have a stable job, you're working for government, or you're a lawyer, or you're this, but you're settled.
Yeah.
You have a career. Career was very crucial. These days, career, you could change career 5 times within your 20s, and you're okay.
We've had some people in their 50s when they have found themselves
Yeah.
career-wise and it's still okay.
So that
Yeah.
has changed, and also the kinds of career that were, you know, recognized
All right.
then. Now you could be doing all manner of things, and
Yeah.
you're still okay. You're still okay. So I think those two things have really changed.
Okay, all right. Nangami, is it different, like how we define success now, maybe from your perspective versus then?
Yeah, definitely, because success now is more material, obviously.
Yeah.
Like you can be unscrupulous, you can be a scammer.
Yeah.
And for as long as you have money, for as long as we can see the shiny stuff, if you
Okay.
can see the cars, we can see the houses, we can see the expensive vacations that you go on, and that's the life that we look up to for most people, and that's what has also gotten people into, you know, hot messes, because it's just about chasing. And also even when it comes to women, because we no longer vet people on their value systems. It's, can you dangle keys before me, car keys, house keys,
Yeah.
and people are becoming easily impressed.
Okay.
And so because they're becoming easily impressed because of these things that we consider material success,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't end up in the best of places, especially as women, because that's what has been brandished to be
Yeah.
some sort of success. So it doesn't matter how it comes, as long as you can show us some few shiny things.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I'm thinking success was very different.
Okay.
I'm thinking it was, because I would think back in the day, it was okay to be stoic. Like, you know, you worship, you go to church, you're physically healthy.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. But
It
right
is more
now,
the character.
yeah.
Versus
Right now you can
now.
be crazy. You see how
Yeah.
crazy TikTok
Yeah.
is? Like you can be crazy, come and do the most outlandish things.
Yeah.
And we were just like, she's got the,
Yeah.
at least she drives a Mercedes. What do you have? You're talking to her, she's making a mess of herself, but she goes to trips in Dubai. So
Yeah.
her bad mistakes be done.
The most you can go is shags.
So maybe the value system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has
Yeah.
changed. The traditional values
Yeah.
are not as important to a lot of people as they were
Yeah,
then.
sure.
Yeah.
But also social capital, I would say.
Yeah.
In our day, you needed to have solid friends. Who
Yeah.
are your girlfriends? Who are your... These days, you could have so many followers online, but you really don't have a real friend. And it's
I mean,
okay.
true. Yeah. If someone would ask you, who are your solid friends?
Yeah,
Most people
yeah.
would struggle to even just
Yeah.
count one.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So who, in your perspective, do you feel feels the pressure more? Is it the men or is it the women to turn 30?
Well, I think it's both of us from different perspectives.
Okay.
For men, in terms of settling down and having money, it's a big deal.
All right.
I mean, I was talking to younger girls, and you talked to a lot of them just a few days ago. And so I asked, what kind of a man are you looking to marry? And material things was number one. You know, a lot of them say, he's got to have some money.
Okay.
He's got to be settled down.
Okay.
That's still very important to the ladies today. So that pressure, and also the pressure men give to each other. What do you have? What have you accumulated? I mean, men like to talk about what they have when they meet together. And when you realize, oh, you have a house, I don't have one yet, then you feel the pressure, not even now from the girls, but also from other men. So in that way, in terms of settling down materially, then the big pressure is on the men.
Okay.
Sometimes it's interesting. Someone was telling me, I don't know how you deal with ladies a lot more. But a lady was telling me, you know, I bought my first house at 26. She was doing an international job. And she was saying now it's a turn-off to a lot of men. Because they feel like you're so prospered, I'm not at your level. So how do I even approach you? And she was saying, I want to get married, but they're scared of me.
True. And I've had a lot of that with a lot of women who are like, I look like I have my business together. Then it becomes what you're saying, a turn off, because now this man is like, Sasa, you have your issues together. So what am I coming to do in your life? So if
interestingly, I asked some men as I talked to a number of men and asked them, how many of you would marry a woman who earns more than you?
Okay.
And there were only a few strategic men who raised their hand. The others were feeling, no, I think I would be intimidated, which should not be the case, in my opinion. If you have, as long as she doesn't use that against you, but if you have your confidence together and self-esteem, it shouldn't really matter at that point. But so I feel both of us have pressure. It just depends on from which side and how you're taking it.
All right. Nangami, do you feel women feel the pressure more now?
The pressure is definitely there. In fact, back to his point, I was even having this discussion the other time. I was saying that women who are successful by societal definition find it very difficult to find men, not because men are unavailable, but also because of the fact that it becomes very difficult now for a man to bring the provision bit, because how can you provide for someone who's already over you? Because obviously if they are above you in terms of material and financial success, then it becomes very difficult for you to prove that I can provide, which I think perhaps Rev will bring us to that point where we'll talk about it, that even as men they're supposed to be educated differently in terms of protection and provision, because most women are doing okay by themselves. So a man has to come and prove beyond the provision and protection, because women are like, protect me against what? If you were to be attacked by bandits, all of us are going down. So you're not proving that the protection bit, so it's just the provision. That's why I advocate for self-mastery, such that when you find a solid man, a man who's self-actualized, even without the money, he still sits on his throne as a man, unshaken and bowed, because he knows that as a woman you don't threaten him, and he's here to serve you much as you're there to serve him. It takes a particular kind of training for people to get to that bit where it's you're no longer threatened. No matter how Nangami comes, you just solid. But because also, perhaps Rev will tell us about this, also men have got low self-esteem. So the only thing that gives them some sort of semblance is what I have. So if what I have is little, I don't have it, then I feel like I'm less than, I'm ineffective and I'm inefficient. So if you're dealing with someone who, because you know money gives you power, and a woman who has accumulated wealth, she has also gotten to a place of power. So if you don't have it, by definition, you're going to feel powerless. So that's why they're feeling intimidated when they're in the company of a woman who has power, because in the presence of power, and you don't have it. So you're always going to feel less than. So I'm thinking perhaps even Rev will explain to us, you know, how when dealing with men, that level, understanding esteem and the value systems, so that men go beyond.
Because like we said, that has changed now, right?
Girls can provide for
themselves.
themselves.
Changed a lot. So I think the men need to understand that, you know, being a man is not about what you have. It's a lot more. So when I talk to them, I say it's an honor you have, the duty that you're able to rise up to your duty, You're not being pushed to do this and do that. You're just rising up to what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do, and then care, that you care for the other person. Honor, duty, care.
And care. All right.
Those are internal qualities, whether you have money or not. If you have money, then it brings value to the money. If you don't have money, you still have enough honor to not just lounge at home and just feel like, let me be taken care of.
Yeah.
You're honorable enough to realize you've got to be working and doing something.
Yeah.
So for the men, they need a lot of help in terms of identity crises and challenges.
Yeah.
And probably that's why we do the program we do for the men.
Yeah.
But also just to say, I think there are some ladies who also need conversations.
True.
It's very interesting. During this crisis of COVID, I handled 3 relationships that broke. Mainly because the man, then his business wasn't working, and the lady was able to keep her job in the 3 cases. And now the lady began to say, what's the use of this man here? And it wasn't a making of himself. It's just COVID happened, business went down.
Disrupted everything.
But now the lady said, I can't live with you if you're not providing. And he's really trying to get back his business. So unfortunately, the 3 of them, the marriages were broken.
Oh, no.
But I didn't feel that was fair. In fact, in one of them, it's a man who had gotten this international job for the lady. And now his business got down, and because she's earning good, and then she feels, I can't support you. I feel that's not just fair.
No,
Now you expect the man has got to provide. I mean, what has happened now is we provide together. We provide together. I mean, we are in this together. It's not when, it's not my mom's day. When she stayed home and the man had to go and hunt and bring back bacon. It's different. So attitudes are important in terms of how we relate with each other.
Yeah, I mean, and I think both of you have preempted this, because my next question was going to be, so then how does dealing with this pressure of, oh, I'm turning 30 and I do not have this, this, and this, or, oh, I am turning 30 and I'm not where I wanted to be. That could be mentally, could be psychologically, not just material aspects. So then how does that affect our relationships around? And it could be, romantic relationships. It could be, professional relationships. It could be how we relate with our friends and families. Like, do you feel that has been affected more now versus then? Or we're slowly sort of like trying to navigate where where we stand in all those things?
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
You want to go first?
Oh, okay. Because I think I'll also just go back to the concept of self-mastery, which I think I'd like to arc back to what Rev said. Because even women need a little bit of education. Things that are acts of God. Like someone fell ill, a sibling passed on, a relative passed on, you lost a child, or even economical situations where now someone lost a job. That is no fault of their own. Then as a unit, as a union, you need to be like, this is not your fault. I'm going to stand by you. And let us go through this. Because for me, usually I think that the thing that should be the first reason why you're living is self-preservation, where the other person is causing you harm. But I'm thinking when someone has lost a job, they're not causing you harm in any way that is, they're doing this thing intentionally. Which brings me to my second point, which is now people need to have critical thinking and also exercise proactive thinking, where you just don't make decisions for the sake of making them. So if both parties underwent through some sense of self-mastery, and also sometimes, which is, such situations are really nuanced. When the man came into the situation and the thing that set him apart was provision, and he was like, I got the money, I got the connections, I'm going to do all of these things for you. He doesn't show up at home, he doesn't do all of these things, but the fort is taken care of. See, your kids are going to school. Yes, I've given you a job, I've provided for you, you're taken care of, you have helped. If I don't show up for 2 days, please just chill, you have what you need. So when they run out of a job, then the leverage they had is no longer in existence. So it becomes very easy to like, so what do you have against me now? You don't provide. That was the only thing that you had, which is good when he was talking about honor, care, and
duty.
And duty. I'm thinking here, if you lead as a man, that is why men need to lead. Even for me, no matter how much money I make, I would really want to be a man who leads. Because I'm of the Christian proclivity, and I would really want to have a man who has like the Jesus Christ kind of leadership. We look to Christ as the standard. And you're like, he was kind, he was gentle, much as he was really radical. But there was that, we don't worship Jesus the man, we worship Jesus the element that he carried,
Okay.
the reverence that we have for that.
Yeah.
And so once men take up that bit of care and everything nice and beautiful that he mentioned, it doesn't matter the economic situations, it doesn't matter
where you are
yeah,
at,
where you are,
yeah.
even physically. You can be ill and the man can be out of a job, but because he had that stoic and beautiful elements of a man, as a woman you're just bound to like some of us, it's not fashionable right now to be like Christians, and people don't understand, why do you follow this Jesus Christ thing? But it's easy for us to submit because we know what we're submitting to.
Okay.
Right. So if it becomes really easy for a man to prove why it's easy for me to submit, even when they're going to the cross, the way Jesus was going to the cross, there were people who were just like, I'm here with you.
Yeah.
I'll sit this one out with you. Yes.
Wow. I mean, there's so much. Do you know add into?
Yeah, maybe just saying we need to redefine success.
Yeah.
Because if success is all about money, and then you lose your money, it all crumbles, you know, and you're depressed.
Yeah.
Because that was success to you.
Yeah.
I think for me, success is about the dreams that you have about life, and a worthwhile dream, not just to have money, but to make an impact in life, to be significant. Number two is just the discipline that you need.
Okay.
If you don't have discipline, then you're not successful. Even if you have a lot of money,
Yeah.
the money is going to destroy you. So there needs to be a dream, yes, a worthwhile dream that you're pursuing and you're progressively achieving. But there's discipline, and then there's determination. Because you may get sick, or COVID may come and take off all your investments, but you bounce back and say, I will still rise up. I'm determined to keep going. And that will keep you going, whatever is happening around you. And lastly, develop yourself. That's why I like the self-mastery thing. Develop yourself so that you're ready for tomorrow. You're ready to be a father when the time comes, a mother when the time comes. You're ready to manage your resources when they come. So being able to define, I was telling someone today, we defined for ourselves as a family with my wife, this is how much money is enough. Beyond that, we're going to use it for more significant things. This is the kind of a house that is okay for us. We don't need, 110 rooms like I saw someone with that. We need just this kind of a house, we're okay. We need this kind of a car and we're okay. When you do that, then you have satisfaction. You feel like, well, we'll get more money, but we have greater things to do with money than just living well and traveling. So defining success for
yourself.
Helps you not just to get to your 50s and you're still running around like a headless chicken because you still feel you've never gotten to what you're hoping
you wanted
to get to.
Wow. You know what? How about we take a break on that note? Because now my mind is doing all the things that it's doing, trying to absorb all those things, but still have so many questions for you. But let's take a break. And then when we come back, then we'd want to understand. So then how do we get over this pressure of timelines? By 30, I should have had this. By 30, I should have done this. By 30, I should be here. Okay. And I'm not there. So then how do we get over that and get to a point where we are okay in terms of defining what matters most to ourselves, not to the entire society and what the society dictates, and also answer some of your questions as far as turning 30, and should it really matter, okay? Should it be like a hard stop? By 30, you have not done this, okay? So we'll be answering all your questions after the break. Stay with us. The show is Your World. Welcome back. The show is Your World, and just in case you're tuning in right now, today we're talking about the big 3-0, something that a lot of people would say, don't even mention that, okay? And it's all about turning 30 and should it matter, okay? And today we have Rev Simon Mbevi, who's Executive Director, Transform Nations, as well as a trainer and founder of Man Enough. And we also have Nangami Masaka, who is a public speaker and founder and director of Guiding Ray, here with us to just help us understand, first of all, should it matter and how do we navigate? And I mean, to what point do we get to that level of being okay with where we are as a people, but of course striving also to do better? Because we've had a lot of people say, it's good to have a man who has a vision, not a kama anaka kitu, lakini.
It's going somewhere.
Right? Know where you're headed. And we're talking about the whole aspect about turning 30 and someone, I mean, we were discussing this with my colleagues before we started the show, and some people said, number one, it gave them a sense, like after turning 30, it gave them a sense of urgency that, hey, time is not on our side, all right? And then we also have others who said, but the age is just but a number. Why should it matter? Why should we live with this pressure of, oh, turning 30 and I have not done this, I do not have kids, I have not settled down, I have not acquired this amount of wealth. So to them, age is just but a number. And this one who said they developed some sense of urgency. So for me, is then how, and Nangami, maybe we can start with this, how then do we balance that whole aspect of age is just but a number? Me, I'm not succumbing to the societal pressure of doing this and doing that, but also dealing with the reality that, hey, you're no longer in your 20s, you are in your 30s, and ideally you should at least have figured things, if not all, figure things out. Okay, so then how do we balance? Yeah.
For me, I guess I'll start with the individuality. You know, understand who you are at that point, because obviously in life we are at different stages on the spectrum, and you also have late bloomers. Because obviously, you know, history is littered with by people who have accomplished a lot, built multi-million or billion-dollar businesses in their 50s, in their 60s. So also knowing that it will take a minute before you're successful, or sometimes there are people who've been successful from the time they were 17. So they 17 or 18, they got a scholarship, and then they went to the US, and things just began to happen for them, and by the time they're in their 30s, they've built businesses, structures, things are working for them, they come home, they have homes, they have big cars. And then those who, at 23, that's when they were getting even an opportunity to just go to college. Just college to do a certificate, and then they'll have to struggle and get opportunities to go do a degree and whatnot. So understanding your individuality, usually then, which is just the tenets of self-mastery, allows you to be really comfortable in the person that you are. Not being complacent, but also being comfortable with who you are. Because, you know, sometimes we approach the world as we hope it to be, not as it is. Because the world is what it is. Not, you know, in our heads, we had all these stories. By 30, we'll have a husband, I'll have kids, I'll have a home, and then I'll retire in my 40s. And you're in your 30s still, you know, you're like, I want to do content writing. You know, you still haven't figured it out. So for me, I'd say the individuality and understanding yourself. The moment you understand yourself, it doesn't bother you anymore. And I think just recently, we had this story of this gentleman, I wouldn't mention the name, but it's a guy who's like in the village doing his thing, and then the lady who came from South Africa, and they're living together, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, someone would look at that and be like, doesn't he have ambition? He has this beautiful, gorgeous woman who's come, you know, they're living together, and he's living the kind of, he has found himself and the individuality of who he is. And the world is adjusting to him. He's not adjusting to the world. Because that is how you're supposed to live. And so for me, it's just knowing your personality, who you are, and once you know who you are, you're not pressured by society, because each of us is running their race. Just take your lane and run your race. That way, you'll not easily be pressurized. Peer pressure will no longer be a problem for you. And then also understanding that not all of us want to create wealth and have billions of shillings. Just the way Rev was saying, you know, that even for me, I'm like, when I make money, I want to use money how I want to use it. I don't want to use money how society says. Invest here, have multiple investments.
Buy that.
Some of us just want to come and live a soft life and buy ourselves nice shoes. We will not borrow, we will not beg, we will have a few things here and there left. And then once we pass on, we don't care. The people who don't care for generational wealth. And the people who care for creating generational wealth. And I think that's okay. So getting to a place where you realize what's okay with you. And then just be okay with that and with the decisions that you make, because obviously choices have consequences, but the consequences have no choice. So the moment you make a choice, you don't get to determine what the consequences are. The consequences will be what will be. So for me, I think
and for those people who say, I mean, age is just but a number, me, I'm not succumbing. I mean, do you feel ignorance? Do you feel it's okay?
I think so. I think some people just say that to cover up. To sort of soothe themselves. Because, I mean, naturally, 30s is when you get to midlife. You know that you only have, you know, you need to go to second half of your life. So at that point, you need, I like what she's saying, because it's about identity, purpose, and potential.
Right.
Who am I in this, world? What am I about?
Okay.
That's your purpose.
Yeah.
And you begin to zero in. In your 20s, you could have touched here and there, picked a few skills. But in your 30s, you need to begin to understand, this is what I'm good at. This is what to make me successful in life. This is what I want to live for.
Okay.
And then you begin now, as we said, define your success and how it looks like.
Okay.
And that's when significance begins to check in. That you could be successful in terms you've made money, you invested here, you've done this degree, but how are you impacting lives? I think I was very excited in my 20s when I wrote my first book. And I realized, people can read a book and actually feel like it made a difference to them. In my 30s when I started Man Enough, and now to see it, it's gone to 50,000 men and more, and to see that has begun to, but it started in my 30s when I began to say, so what am I about? Where am I going to bring in all my energies so that in my 40s I can begin to have fruit of that? To me, in your 40s is when you should be able to say, I invested a lot in my 30s, narrowed down what I was about, and now I'm beginning to get some fruit. But life is such as, even 40 is another marker, 50 is another marker.
I mean, listen, they say life starts at 40.
Marker.
Okay, so it's like 40 is the new 30, or 40 is the new 20. No, 40 is the new 30. So there's a lot of...
I encourage people to be able to say vision, 30, vision 40, vision 50. Then it just helps you to put a pressure on yourself, not just to lazy around, but realize, given my potential and my opportunities, what should I do with my life in a way that I will celebrate I have done that?
I like that.
Not for the world, but for me.
But for myself,
Because I could have achieved so much in my 40 or even 50, but you could have done a lot more with who you are and what potential you have and what opportunities you have. So you begin to work on yourself to become the best version of you by 30, by 40, by whichever age.
Interesting. So you both deal with, again, men, women, different ages, I want to believe. Looking around at the current generation, I mean, the Gen Zs are now redefining almost everything together with the Gen Alphas, right? So do you think they have redefined then what the societal expectations versus what success looks like, and versus what you need to have achieved maybe as a need? Like, do you feel that has changed now with this current generation as compared to the previous ones?
Yeah, obviously, with every generation, it comes with its own tenets, with its own explanations and whatnot. I'd even give you an example of, sometimes there are people who are living like really good lives in the city. They drive the Porsche cars, and then they go home to visit their grandmother, and you can see their grandmother just lives in a really small house, or the grandparents live in a really simple, small house. And most people on social media be like, how can you be living all that beautiful life in the city and your grandmother is living a horrible life? They forget that those people are content.
They're happy.
I remember my own grandmother refused. My great-grandmother, she didn't want a big structure. She was like, leave me alone. I'm okay. I want to live I don't want electricity. She used to smoke her meat. She didn't want to use gas. You take it high. Like, I'm just used to, my 3 stones. Because their generation they were content with what they had. She had family, she raised her kids, she's seen her great-grandkids, she's happy, she's content. Yes, and then there was us who were coming and you're like, oh, you need to have this big house and you need to have, because rural electrification was a thing. They weren't excited. So even for me, as a millennial, I'd just love to stick to my lane, because I know that the things that excite me might not excite the coming generation. So because sometimes I look at them like, that's weird. I don't think I would do that. Even when it comes to dating, my goodness, the things that they're doing, like, no, I'm too private. I wouldn't want to, engage. You guys are just, this is no. No, this is Babylon all over again, you know, or Sodom and Gomorrah all over again. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's really too.
Yeah. Because they're so open-minded, and in the previous the generation that went ahead of us, they thought we were more open-minded, and the one that is coming behind is
scared for that.
It's even worse. So even for me, I'm thinking, with every generation, it comes with its own tenets. So for me, it's just that's why you don't need the pressure. Take off the pressure from yourself.
Yeah, and we were discussing this and said, I mean, some bit of pressure is good because then it motivates you too. But then again, I like what both of you have pointed out very clearly from this conversation, that define what is important to you. Stick to that, and then follow that to the latter.
And yet across the board, there's what makes sense in any generation, like significance and basic values. That will never change, whatever the generation. Everyone gets a sort of crisis at some point when you're not living significantly. I mean, you accumulate all this money, so what? So you begin to say, what can I do to impact society? So I feel like the younger generation now, Gen Z and Alpha, they're very huge on consciousness. No, you can't live like that. That's wrong. But when you look at their lives, it doesn't reflect that.
Calling the kettle black.
It's like people should do this, but how significantly are you living? Hey, my son was asking me the other day, Dad, can you buy me this kind of Jordans? They cost like 20K, and I'm thinking, can you afford that? Is that a lifestyle that you need to live? I could afford it, but it's taken me so many years to get
build
here.
That.
You've got to live at your level and understand that having this nice shoe and just flossing with it on social media, that's not a value. It could kill you eventually. I could buy it for you, but it's not a blessing to you if I do that. Then I'm setting you up for failure, because once you leave college and begin to get 30,000, 50,000, you can't afford that.
Then when adulting starts.
But then again, I also feel like people are not also really equipped with knowledge of that it can all come crumbling down. That, the randomness of life, with what we saw with COVID, the black swan kind of thing. Most people do not prepare for the black swan, which I'm thinking that it comes at a person's point in life and they're not ready for what happens. That's why, I know so many people who really did well in their 20s, in their 30s, and then in their 40s and sometimes in their 50s, they're losing it all. They're losing the money, they're losing the marriage, they're losing reputation in society, or they no longer wield the power that they did. And, so sometimes we might look at those people and feel, we might laugh at them and be like, oh, look at all of this thing, it came crumbling down. You forget that that's the cycle of life. You remember we talked the other time, winter's coming. And most people do not prepare for winter. So I think when we have these just structured and solid ways of looking at life, that's why we have like 30s, you're supposed to succeed. You might get to your 40s and it all comes down. And at some point people hit rock bottom. Emotionally, something is going to hit you. It could be a disease. And for some people, it's financial instability or incapacitation. Like right now, there's so many people who've like out of jobs and they no longer have the money and they're selling the big cars that they used to have, and they can no longer afford the beautiful apartments that they were in, and they can't. It's like they're sentencing themselves like, I'm a total failure. And just having grace on yourself, and then the moment you take off the pressure and you just have grace on yourself that it's a season, it will pass, so you don't have these expectations that it's just going to be rosy. The moment I make money today in my 30s, I'm always going to have money. Oh, I see that.
Have the right kind of pressure, have some goals. By 30, I want to be here, but have resilience and flexibility. That you're resilient. If it doesn't happen, something comes and hits you, you rise up again. It's really about you refuse to stay down. You rise up again and still pursue.
Because most of the time you make plans and then God laughs at your plans, and life also looks at you and be
but
like,
then it doesn't mean now don't make plans.
Don't make plans.
Still make plans, but be flexible and resilient.
I like that. Okay, how about we answer some of your questions? We asked on social media, what is 30 sort of like, looks like, and are you scared? Are you excited, to get to the big 3-0, okay? So, question 1. This one is from Rose Wairumo. She's 29 years, and she says, hi, my 30th birthday is coming up in the next 2 months. I am struggling to answer the question, who am I now? I need help understanding and prioritizing self-realization and appreciation currently. Please help. Deep question.
It's a deep question.
Yeah.
Maybe I could start and then share.
Sure, yeah.
One of the ways is just to know, how am I unique? What's about me that is not other people? Because that's why identity begins. You know, this is who I am, this is what I can be able to do, these are my strengths. So appreciating how different you are from everyone else, because everyone is unique. There are things I could do. Both of us do public speaking, but our experience is different from mine.
Yes,
Our way of delivering is different from mine. So understand how unique you are in terms of your background, your story, your strengths, your abilities, your passions. Begin to write that down and then begin to say, yeah, this is who I am. This is me, and I appreciate this person. Then you begin to say, so how can this person then achieve something in life with all that she has? And background is important. I mean, I do a lot of things about men and boys today. I'm trying to push to mentor 1 million boys in partnership with others by 2030. But it's informed by my story. I lost my dad when I was 8. And that just got me into this thing of, I was so father hungry. I wanted everybody I saw that looked like my dad, I wanted to grab onto them and say, can you be like my dad? So my story made it unique for me to do what I'm doing. So just understand your story, your passions, your abilities, your strengths. Once you understand that, you begin to say, this is who I am. I don't have to compare myself with the other person. I can appreciate my uniqueness and use it for good.
I like that. Appreciate. Okay. Interesting. All right.
Yeah, this is my input, and I totally agree with what Rev has said. So you can imagine, I want to use an example. Rev is married, but if I was romantically interested in Rev, the only way I can get to know him is by spending time with him. Let us spend time together. Let's go on trips together. Let us go on retreats together. That's how I'll get to know him. Let me spend time with him when he's mad, when he's angry. That's when I'll know who he is. So for most people, they don't spend time with themselves. So how are you going to know who you are if you don't spend time with yourself? And there's so much noise. There's people spend a lot of time on social media. You spend a lot of time watching TV. So you don't take, people can't even, you know, people struggle with meditation for like 10 minutes. People can't sit with themselves for 10 minutes, right? And that is a muscle that needs to be trained. Sit with yourself for 20, 30 minutes. Meditation usually teaches you how to just examine your thoughts and not judge them. And then after some time, as you graduate, you get to a place where, you know, you can now just get deeper into the person that you are not. People don't have to go to do some great things like meditation because it's not for everyone. But just learning how to sit with yourself the way he's talked about, write things about you, you know, things that you love. Because when we're looking at the journey about purpose, people don't find purpose. You explore purpose. That's why most people are like, I want to find my purpose.
And I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of people struggling with what is my purpose? How do I find my
purpose? Because purpose is not static. Purpose is transient. It changes. Right now I'm a public speaker. For the next 10 years I might decide to be a DJ. I'm not going to be a badass
DJ.
When it comes to DJing, you know, entertaining people. So right now I'm an educator, but 10 years from today my purpose would be to entertain. So my purpose has changed. Just the same way I'm changing.
I see that.
So it's not a one thing. You don't get to do this. You grow, you change, and it's because people have an identity. Right now you identify me, Nangami Masaha, as a public speaker. That is why when I introduce myself, I say that professionally I am a public speaker. That's not who I am, because that's not what I was 20 years ago. I was something totally different. Because I was in corporate, I was doing finance. So I have a background in finance. So the things that I do in life keep on changing. So the moment you sit with yourself, that's why you take off the pressure and explore it. So start exploring so many things, which is why even when I talk about kids, it's you know, we just think of kids, I can provide for my child. See, they have school, they have food, but when you want to help your kids identify purpose is when you put them to explore the very many things that they love. So today they'll say, I want to do soccer, tomorrow I want to do basketball, the next day they want to do ballet. It is in exploring so many things that eventually they realize what ticks for them. Then back in the day, you know, we used to look for jobs based on employability. reality,
Yeah.
not based on the thing that we came to do here. And that is why, like Rev started and he said he was a lawyer, and right now he's doing so many
Tried
things.
politics at
Yeah,
some point,
and then tried
was because-
politics. Yeah, because I guess when I don't know, this is just me just being presumptuous, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking back in the day it was cool to do law.
Yeah.
And the grades, sometimes you just
It
got the
wasn't cool.
grades.
You were required
Yes,
to do law.
you were required to do law, and perhaps you had the grades for it.
Yes.
So you had the grades, and then the calling letter comes, and you're
Yeah.
admitted to go and practice law.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, but I
I
want to do
want- yeah.
agriculture, but you can't.
I like that.
I think the important
Yeah.
part there is understanding the why. Why are
Okay.
you doing this?
Okay.
What are you trying to achieve?
All right.
At the end of it, you just remind me of what Plato said. A life unexamined is not a life worth living. And I think this generation is just too busy. You
Yeah.
never really examine your life.
Your life, yeah.
And therefore, it's not really worth living because
like
you don't
that.
even get who you are, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Listen, hey, our time has gone and we have like 4 more questions to answer. So maybe try keep it short, okay? Maggie Monday, 29 years again, says, so what are the best life choices you can make before turning 30? I am 29 and I'm afraid I have not hit the goals that I had set for myself, and it is depressing me to say the least. Nangami, you want to take this?
So the best life choices that you can never make for me, I think, is just to go within. That's the best life choice you can never make for yourself. So that you know financially you know what you need to do, physically take care of yourself, spiritually find God and who God is to you, psychologically do the same thing, go to therapy, emotionally, get your trauma issues sorted out. And I think that's usually, and then when it comes to relationships, build relationships with people in business, go out there, build relationships. That's the easiest way to make money, because money is in people's pockets.
Yeah.
But also when it comes to relationships and dating, again, the people you end up with are a reflection of you.
Who you
they
are,
are your
yeah.
choice that you made.
Yeah.
So if the person you're with, that's the best choice you made.
Yeah.
And so you have to be really careful about the choices that you make. Yes.
I like that you make. Hey, hiya.
Maybe I could add
maybe?
very quickly there.
Okay.
Is just define who are you, what do you believe in.
Okay.
Let your values guide your choices.
Okay.
And number 2, where do you want to go? So that your choices will be guided by what you really want in life. So if you answer those questions, I think what you believe in, values guiding where you're going and the choices you're making,
All right.
and what you really want out of life.
I like that. All right. Richard, Wasonga is 25 years, says, people over 30, how is life after 30 different from before? And what was your biggest realization? Rev, do you wanna start?
The biggest realization was I'm not living forever.
Okay.
But I'm going to die one day.
Because
Because people, when I saw people who are 30, I used to say, oh, they are so old, they're about to die.
Yeah.
Now you're the old
You're
one.
the old one.
So you begin to realize mortality is real.
Yeah.
So you need to just wake up and begin to understand. Someone has said, I don't remember who, but has said the 2 most important days in your life is the day you were born
yes.
and the day you realize why.
Yeah.
So I think in your 30s, you begin to realize I don't have too long to live, and I need to figure out what am I about.
Okay.
That's what happened for me.
Okay. Your realization. What was
Yeah,
it?
for me it's the same thing, and especially with the passing on of may her soul rest in peace, of Fire Mama. That's when I realized, because I really loved her, reggae fan through and through. Listen to her.
Oh yeah, that's what you have.
Yeah, I mean, just look at this. I've overdone it.
Yeah.
So I really loved the Queen, the Queen of Reggae. So for me, her passing on was even. I remember when she passed. So many people in my life have passed on, but until she passed on, that's when I realized how fickle this life is.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really famous female pastor who talks about this, and she says, if you're 30 and you're supposed to die at 45, you're old because you only have 15 years left to die.
Yeah.
But if you're 45 and you have up until 80 to live, you're still young.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized because I don't know when I'm going to be here, when I'm going to leave, then I'm going to live my life as if I'm old, so that I get just to live a high quality kind of life.
I see that. Okay. We have 2 more, and I think one of you will take each. But if you feel like contributing to the other, still fine. So this one says, this is Oyo Makotus from Kangema, who says, hello, I'm a 35-year-old male with no stable income, no wife and kids, and currently living with my brother. I have not hit the milestones that the society deems important, and I feel like a failure. Is there any hope for me? How do I redeem myself? Rev, maybe you want to take this? Yeah.
Failure is not failure until you settle down in it.
Okay.
all of us will fail in one way or another, but learn from the failure and ask yourself, now that I'm here, what can I do?
All right.
Don't settle down, just, pick yourself up and say, what can I do from here to become the man I want to be? Can I get a job? Can I do something differently? How do I make sure I begin to not depend on others, leave my mom's house or wherever you're staying and be able to stand on your own? Because independence is important at some point. You can't depend on others.
True.
So just figure out. And if you need a few people to help you figure it out, don't be afraid to find someone to help you. I think that's why there are good programs like What You Do and What We Do with the Men. Because we sit down together, talk to each other, encourage one another, but also help each other figure out next steps. Don't die alone, just let other people help you as you figure out what next step.
Absolutely, and there's still hope. 35 is still very young.
That's true.
Okay, last one. This one is Elvis Kiprono from Kericho, who says, is age really just a number? And how do we move away from the pressure of turning 30 but still deal with the realities and expectation of turning 30? I think we covered this a little bit, but just to answer his question, is age just really but a number?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Age is just a number, especially when it comes to certain things, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love. Age is just a number, but also it comes to a point in life where you have to show for being responsible, being an adult. There are certain things that you need to do. There are certain things that you need to have. We expect you to be in certain spaces because you're grown. You're now independent. And so when you hit a particular age and things are not working, sometimes it's good to really sit back and introspect, not to be complacent, but just to understand the way Rev had mentioned potential. Understand your potential. There's some people who are late bloomers, so that is, they'll take time before they get there. But also, it's just a number when you're not putting pressure. For me, even with the previous question that you answered, for as long as you're not sitting on your bum bum and resigned to fate, it will happen when it will happen because you're failing forward and you're failing fast. But when you're just sat and you're not doing anything, then it just doesn't become a number.
A number.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So then how do, and I'll take this as your parting shots, literally like 30 seconds, if that is even possible. So then navigating that, understanding that you don't have to succumb to the societal pressure, but also understanding how important it is to have your own goals and, vision and understanding what is important to you. How do we get to that level where we're not complacent, but we're also not, succumbing to the pressure?
I would say two things. Have your own personal development plan.
All right.
This is who I am and this is where I want to go. And you make yourself your own personal competition. You're not competing with the world, but you know who you are and you want to get somewhere. So I have that. And if it doesn't happen, you say it didn't happen, but I'll still have a plan. I'm still moving. And lastly, for me, I would say rather than count days or years, make years count with what you do with them.
Really good.
Don't just sit down and count, I'm getting to 30. No, make your years count.
Yeah. Oh, I really like, oh, wow. I really like that.
Yeah. I think that was such a closer. I don't even have to add anything because make your years count. I think that should be the hallmark of this the cornerstone of why we're here. So I don't want to ruin it.
Same here. I'm just like, you know what, on that note, on that positive note, let's end the conversation here. Thank you both of you for coming by today. It's such an amazing conversation. I really wish we could just sit here for the entire day because you're both amazing and you have amazing insights. But again, we have to say goodbye in the interest of time. So Simon, who's Executive Director, Transform Nations, as well as a trainer and founder of Money Enough. And we also had Nangami Masaka, who's a public speaker, founder and director as well, Guiding Ray. Thank you so much to both of you, really. And thank you for all the amazing questions that you sent over today. And if you still have more questions, engage with us on our socials. And that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. But if you missed the first part of this conversation, feel free to head to our YouTube channel. That is at NTV Kenya, as well as our website at ntv.co.ke and get more of this conversation. But until next time, have yourselves a lovely day ahead and stay safe. God bless. And remember, understand what is important to you. Do not succumb to the societal pressure of turning 30. See you next time. then does it matter that you